Hello, welcome. I'm Christina Tobin with Free and Equal Elections, and you're joining us on our weekly United We Stand sessions. And, we like to sprinkle in a lot of different sort of individuals from thought leaders and musicians, artists. And this is our first week having a candidate for that matter, let alone a matching duo, presidential and vice presidential candidate of the Life and Liberty Party. I wanted to please welcome J.R. Myers and Tiara Lusk to United We Stand sessions.
Thank you, Christina. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to take off my work regalia here. I just was wearing that for a demonstration, but wow, it is hard to breathe through that. So yeah, I work at a federally qualified health center, and I came to work last week to find that screen on my desk, that visor. So we're not mandated to wear them yet on this side of the clinic, but in the medical side, when they're working with patients, they are mandated to wear those. So very interesting times we're living in.
We are, John, it was a pleasure meeting you at the presidential debate, Free and Equal Elections we did before the primary. You were one of 18 candidates that participated. Tiara, I'll get to you. I haven't met you in person yet, but I'm looking forward to one day.
Yeah, Chicago was great. That was right before the pandemic really hit. So everything's changed since then. Substantial changes have occurred. And a lot of the things that we talked about have started to come to pass, unfortunately.
And Tiara, I know you have a little bit of a delay in audio, so we'll try to, that happens with technology, but please welcome yourself to United We Stand sessions and say hello.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate you taking the time to interview us.
Muted?
Oh, am I muted?
I can hear her.
Oh, I cannot.
You can hear me?
Oh, but John cannot hear you.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's a first. So we'll just we'll flow with it or try to. This is going to be interesting. I've never had that happen. So maybe Jessica, I don't know, but let's go ahead and just flow with it. John, Tiara, welcome. John, can you start off with giving us a little bit of a background on why you're running for president of the United States?
Right. Well,
and what the Life and Liberty Party is all about. I mean, for people who have no idea, because there's a lot more parties beyond the grand illusion of the one party system.
Well, I like to think that there's room in the political marketplace for many different expressions of political thought. Just like the supermarket, we have many different brands to choose from. It'd be a boring world if all we had was Coke and Pepsi, So how about a little root beer or 7-Up or something, right? So yeah, well, personally, I come out of a long background of third-party politics. I've been involved with the Libertarian Party, the Reform Party, the Alaskan Independence Party, the Constitution Party. All of those shared one thing in common, basically, which was espousing a constitutional framework for government, limited government, and acknowledging, the sovereignty of the individual, and that our rights were derived from our creator, and that they're not given to us by the government. So although those might seem to be very different political parties, in reality, my philosophy was fairly consistent throughout that journey. And that brings me to the Life and Liberty Party. Myself and Lori Stacy are the co-founders of the Life and Liberty Party, and we realized that the existing political structures out there. We were both on the National Executive Committee of the Constitution Party. I'd been involved for about 15 years altogether in the Constitution Party. But we came to the realization that while these parties talked a good game, the reality did not match the talk. The talk didn't match the walk. So we needed, to find an expression, a real expression that would be inclusive to newcomers, new blood, as it were, young people, new generations, where we could mentor new grassroots leadership, and we could utilize new technologies to get the word out, so we wouldn't be bound by this archaic thinking and this kind of country club mentality that really did nothing to advance the cause of liberty. So that compelled us to seek a different avenue, and then that's how the Life and Liberty Party was formed. And we see it as a centrist party with the understanding that the Constitution is the center of our political life in America, and we want to be firmly founded on the original interpretation of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. We don't want it just to be rhetoric. We want it to be real. And we want to show the people how this is still relevant and real in their lives today, and how the Constitution and the framing documents that the founders, the legacy that has been given to us is extremely relevant today. And it truly is the answer to our problems. And that the more we steer away from our foundational documents, the more chaos that ensues. And so, but the genius of the Constitution is that it also, it divides government, it balances the powers, and it also protects minority rights. So that's just kind of a general overview. Tiara?
Tiara?
Yeah. So I have a lot of background in, politics too. I actually started with international, in the international arena. I was sent overseas to do research on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict by the Rotary Clubs. I was given an academic grant.
I wish I could read lips.
2012. So that really opened my eyes to things going on and just the way that the United States interacts with other countries. Because I met diplomats from all over the world when I was invited to different political events. And so since I returned to the United States, I was involved with the Republican Party. I was a state delegate for my county and alternate precinct leader. And then just had the realization that I'm a lot more interested in the third party movement. So I felt a lot more committed to that. And I was looking for organizations that had the kind of platform that I felt like I could really get behind. So in about 2019, I was working with I was the Constitution Party regional leader for my area. And I also actually ran, I was hired to manage the regional office, the same region, for a governor candidates. He's a U.S. congressman, but he was running for governor in 2018. So I had all that experience, and then ran the same region with the Constitution Party. And then this year I was a national delegate for the Constitution Party. And that's actually kind of how I met JR. And I really liked his platform, and I liked the things that he stands for. So I decided to reach out and contact him, and then had the opportunity to run for as his vice presidential candidate, and I was the one selected. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity, and I'm really excited to be here.
Well, Tiara, thank you so much for giving a thorough background and how your experience and meeting JR that is really shifted you into being a part of and supporting third parties, alternative parties. I personally see every candidate as an independent. And I'm sure I know John can't hear you, but I'm sure he's quite familiar with your background already, having you as his vice presidential running mate. So, yes. But it's so good for you to let our viewers know more about you. And I'm just going to put it out there. It's nice to see another woman. It's nice to see more women in positions, as a woman in the free and equal elections. There's so few in the political arena, educational, and the work that I do. And on the candidate side, I'm seeing a shift as well. And that's like a beautiful thing to see for sure. But, we see beyond gender and race and age, and the heart and compassion and people caring for our country is where it's at. And it's very clear to me from the debate that J.R. Myers was one of quite a few candidates on that panel in the primary that truly cares about our country and is running. And I'm sensing the same thing from you, Tiara. Mm-hmm. So JR,
Thank you.
so,
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Tiara.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. No. There was just a lot of things that really struck me about how far off
And John, you may want to mute your
some of the
mic
major parties.
Yes.
when you're not speaking. Okay. Go ahead, Tiara.
Oh.
Technology.
I was just saying, yeah. I was just saying, it became clear to me that the dichotomy between the two major parties didn't completely fit all my values, which I think is very much typical of the average American these days. Research shows that about approximately 40% of Americans now vote independent. And I think that's one of the things that was really important to me was the environment. And so I didn't understand why that had to be completely a Democrat-controlled narrative, because I didn't think it has to be, right? It's just that they advocate for big government as a way to deal with it. But it can be a conservative issue. Our ancestors, all throughout many long-sustaining civilizations, have cared about taking care of the environment and our natural resources. So I just thought JR's party encompassed all of my values, and when a lot of other parties didn't.
Beautiful. Well said. And I wanted to, dive into a few different topics that I know are of mutual passion. Wanted to go into voting reform. Really get a feeling of, the voting reform of what you both feel is needed for our country at this time in our nation. I
Sure.
definitely have some things to say back, but I'd like to hear you first.
Thanks, Christina.
Learn from you.
Yeah, I'll start with that. I can hear you now, Tiara. Finally figured it out.
Good.
So,
Yay.
yeah, yay.
I was like, I know John's gonna do this.
I know.
So drop the camera.
I'm
wiggle
dropping the
around,
camera.
whatever
I'm
you have
all
to do.
over the
Be able
place.
to-
What's going on? I can't hear. What? Hello.
Oh,
So
Now
yeah,
I
so
can
nice.
Now I can make sure. Now we can make sure that my statements are JR approved.
yeah, right. I'm sure you're fine. Even though I didn't hear it. But yeah. Voter
I approve them.
Okay, good. So
Yes.
Thanks.
Good words.
Okay.
Good words.
On
Not that matters.
a serious note here. So the one of the foundations, of course, of the republic is the voting system and the franchise. The right to cast a vote and to have that vote counted appropriately. So we see that there have been potential breakdowns in the system all along, from voter registration to precinct voting, absentee balloting, precinct vote counters, who's counting the ballots, how are the ballots being transported, how are the ballots being verified, is there any backup, is there a paper trail, or is it solely electronic? What are the conflicts of interest between the various voting companies and the candidates out there? So there are many issues to be explored. What are the different laws that are unconstitutional, that are prohibiting candidates from even getting on the ballot because of outrageous filing fees or onerous petition requirements, which have become even more burdensome during the corona pandemic? So these are just some of the many issues at the very heart of our republic, and which impact the ability of the citizens to be actively involved in their own government. So again, going back to that grassroots activism, I fully and always have supported mobilizing people to get involved in their local, state, federal governments on every level. And so we need to make sure that the people are truly empowered and that the laws do not promote obstacles to that activism or civic involvement, is what it really is, and that the laws do no longer create a franchise for two political parties, which are really one control mechanism. So that's where I'm coming from, and that's where the Life and Liberty Party is coming from. Is, we need to look at the very fundamentals of the voting system and correct some of these disparities. So not to mention that corporations are not people, and that there needs to be some reform in campaign finance as well. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you. Tiara?
Yeah. So this was never our founding fathers' intention, is for us to be controlled by two-party system. They patterned our system more after British Parliament, where even in Britain now, there are several different options, and candidates are given a much more equal footing. And so I teach business. I teach business management for Western Nevada College. And I do a lot of research, business related. And this reminds me a lot of the kind of barriers that mega corporations create to smaller organizations trying to enter the market. The odds are so stacked against smaller third parties because of the way the system is designed that it's very difficult for third party candidates to even get on the ballot. I remember asking about Secretary of State's offices throughout the United States and asking what the requirements were for candidates to be on the ballot, third-party candidates. And a lot of them just didn't even know. I would call them and they would say, I don't know the rules about that. So can you email me your questions and then we can research it and get back to you about all the things you need to do to get on our ballot. And I just thought, wow, they just don't even want a lot of official organizations that you have to go through. They don't even want to bother with third-party candidates because they feel like it's too much of a hassle. So this is definitely unfair. The way the whole system is set up and designed, and it really needs to be reformed to make it a little bit more fair for other candidates that don't necessarily want to affiliate with the two major parties. Yeah.
This topic's near and dear to heart. This is a story I don't even know if I've really shared. I worked as a ballot access coordinator for independent Ralph Nader back in 2004. And for a decade there, to date, I've helped collect and organize signatures in the millions for candidates across the political spectrum. But in 2004, I was in the belly of the beast of the Chicago electoral system, and Ralph Nader's signatures were challenged. He had fallen a bit short for the turn-in due to a corrupt circulator claiming he had 10,000 signatures that weren't. So, we had 35,000 signatures. The requirement's 25,000 for an independent to get on the ballot in Illinois. For third parties, it's 25,000, and for Ds and Rs, it's only 5,000. So that's flawed and rigged right there alone. But when Ralph Nader's signatures were being challenged, the House Majority Leader to this date, Democratic Michael Madigan, used full-time state employees from his office, full-time, to successfully knock Ralph Nader off the ballot. So yeah, day 2 or 3 into the whole ordeal, I caught on. These were full-time state employees that didn't want to be there. They were complaining to me, and then I went in there early one morning and asked the guy at the front desk to ID everybody and take a photocopy. And he did that before the lawyers showed up, and got the papers and all the IDs before their lawyer pulled it out of the tray. And I walked out and I said, "You're too late." I had the names and IDs of all these employees, and then sued Michael Madigan for using full-time state employees at taxpayers' expense to knock an independent candidate off the ballot. I mean, this is what these corrupt politicians do. Yeah. And while I did lose that case and didn't have another $10,000 to appeal, I ended up moving to Bali, 10,000 miles away after that. I was like, I need a break from this. But I feel for you. The flaws of the ballot access, restricted ballot access barriers are beyond unconstitutional, immoral. And, you have the gerrymandering, you have the voting machines, you have the closed presidential debates, and you have all these people in office that have no incentive to fix these flaws because it's what helps get them reelected over and over and over again. So I am very, I just had to share that story in detail, I think, for the first time on a stream. But I feel for you, and I commend you for being here and showing people that as we rise, whether it's in the hundreds and thousands and run for president and Congress starting in 22, I feel that we can shift back to where we have life and liberty, right? Right. Throughout the United States and the world.
Yeah. Right. We have to try, right? We can't let them beat us down with their system, with their unfair rules, with their with their private club mentality, because that's not what this government's about. That's not what these people are about. That's not what this nation's about. And I like to say the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, those articulate our God-given rights. And those are actually the first universal declaration of human rights. And so we need to champion that, continue to champion those notions throughout the world. We see what's happening in places like Hong Kong when there's a retrenchment on those rights. It's not a pretty picture, There's blood has been shed for us to enjoy these liberties, just as today, gathering together and speaking freely. This is not common in many parts of the world. It's not permitted. So we need to vigorously defend that, if not only for ourselves, for our brothers and sisters around the world that also cherish and desire freedom and liberty in life.
Thank you. And I see
going along.
Tiara.
Going along with that idea, I was just watching a sermon by Chuck Baldwin yesterday, and one of the things that he mentioned was the parable of the story wife. Yeah, one of the parables. We're trying to get his endorsement this year. But one of the parables in the Bible that he gave was. Oh yeah, we would love that. So hopefully we might be planning to visit him soon anyway, just to meet him in person. But one of the parables he was talking about from the scriptures was talking about how basically he was saying Jesus came and he said, I've bought you with a price. Now don't go out and become enslaved again. And sometimes we just do that. We without knowing it, right? We fall for this propaganda, thinking that it's going to be something positive and beneficial for us, but it's slowly enslaving us more and more over time to where we're not free anymore. And so I don't know. The thought of that just hit me really profound. Like our founding fathers did a lot and they sacrificed a lot, and they fought hard for our freedom. So I can just kind of see them saying right now to us, we bought your freedom with a price. Don't go and enslave yourself again.
It reminds me of this saying, I think it was
why would you do that?
Right. Wasn't it Benjamin Franklin, I believe that said that those who sacrifice liberty for security deserve neither, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So we're really seeing that, really put to the test these days.
Well, I so far and everything I've heard about the Life and Liberty Party, I dig it. I still see both of you as independents. Yeah, I know. I see you both as independents, and I think Tiara, it's so true. The Gallup poll, does state that there are more independent voters than there are Democrat and Republicans. I think we're just on the cusp in the beginning, and while it's cool to have lots of parties, I have seen firsthand within both the National Green and Libertarian Party, and it just depends cycle to cycle. It's like every other cycle, one of them's way easier to work with than the other. It's the weirdest thing. And but I've seen as those parties become larger, they inevitably become infiltrated. I think the Constitution Party is the only exception, and anything smaller, they've been really Chuck Baldwin and Randy Stufflebeam in Illinois. I've known him a decade. He helps make it easy for me with the Constitution Party. But I do feel that it seems maybe like, I don't know, as we shift into a blockchain kind of direction ledger in the future, it seems like parties will become a bit more obsolete. I love the ideas that you guys are bringing to the tables, and I see a blockchain ledger, and even this interview today will be implemented into our blockchain election assistant app. We'll be launching into the fall during our presidential debate final stop in the United We Stand tour. So we'll give you more information about that and see if we can't sprinkle you in to speak here and connect with the people, right? That's what it's about. Between thought leaders and artists and all different types of comedians, whatever, we gotta have some laughter. We gotta have some love.
Oh, yes.
Awesome. Lots of love.
For sure. Yep.
So just knowing y'all are out there and your mindset of not giving up, it inspires me furthermore to continue to push forward, knowing that there are people like you that gravitate towards, our nation coming together and wanting free and equal elections. So I know you're really, have really passionate on the ballot paper oversights. Did you want to talk a little bit about that, John, Tiara? And
just
your
that,
take on ballot papers.
Right. We just need to have a verifiable paper trail that can be secured, that can be available if there's any question as to a particular vote count. And we see so often these days that there is no trail. There's no way to verify the election results after election night. And this is a problem. So, sometimes technology is not the best answer, or the way it's being utilized is not necessarily proper. So we need to go back to a system where we have physical evidence that can't be easily, blipped away, and that can be stored, like I said. And we can have multiple ways of securing the data, and some of it can be electronic. But I'm against sole reliance upon electronic data storage for voter records, balloting records. So the other aspect of it is we need to encourage people to be active and volunteer, actually their paid positions, the precinct poll watchers that help with the actual election process and that actually then count the votes. So we need to make sure people understand this process, and it's actually a very good way to learn about government is to get involved in your local polls and be a poll watcher and a precinct committee person for whatever party or no party. I also like the idea, that political parties really are just vehicles for expression and institutions, repositories of knowledge, because an individual can't, amass all the knowledge required because of all the extensive laws relating to elections and campaigns. So we do need organizations to help us, but we should never turn the organization into a monolithic institution or an object of worship or an object or end in and of itself. That's where a lot of these parties falter and fail. And instead of realizing that the parties are vehicles, they're a means of an expression, but they are not the end in themselves. So anyway, but we need to encourage people to get involved at the very basic levels of our democracy, of our republic. And again, that's at the polls. Be at the polls. See you at the polls, people. It makes such a difference. And, most people may not realize, but most of the poll workers are really aging out. And it's going to be a real problem here if we don't get some younger people to replace them.
Oh, but we are, John.
Well, now we are. Yeah.
That's happening. It's still happening. 2021, 22. It's happening. Like that is coming. And, as far as parties, I'm an optimist. I'm also a realist. And I love, I think there's such a purity in how parties are created. Absolutely. But man, as they become larger, inevitably, there's those people that have agendas, sociopath, narcissists. They push the good people out. I've seen it over and over again. And so, I'm again, it's a part of the process. I'm all like, hey, if you need to run on a party line to win right now, do it. We've seen some candidates do that. Probably the current president too. I mean, the good things about him being our president is more people are engaged than ever, him getting elected. And he was really an outsider, really sort of independent in a way that won. That's paving the way for an independent candidates movement. I think that's just but on the paper ballot side, John, Tiara, somebody brought up to me, with Congress pushing through, this corona, what they did with 9/11 when that went down, suddenly the National Defense Authorization Act, Patriot Act, no egregious. Good. Shame on Congress, really shame on you guys. And now we have, the coronavirus and House Bill creepy number 6666. That's just a little bit disturbing, but hey, I look through it as much as I can. But if they can trace us on a phone, right? Everywhere we're going, why can't we vote through a phone? Somebody brought this up to me the other day. I'm like, we're doing paper ballots and so on, and we know why. But I mean, it's just we could vote by a phone and still generate a paper ballot, right? Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm learning through the
businesses do with their receipts.
What, Tiara?
businesses do this with their receipts all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and it can and will be on a ledger one day where you can go in and enter your however long digit code and know that your vote counted. And you know what I've learned, John and Tiara, through our electoral reform symposiums, the Secretary of State, people have come to our League of Women Voters of Colorado. They don't like that the voting machines were owned by Diebold and then Dominion bought it, and you follow the money. It's powers that be. Like, it cannot be
And
more.
even
You follow the money. Huh?
even foreign governments or foreign owners, foreign countries. It's like,
Oh yeah.
really, if there's anything that should be made in America, it should be our electoral system, right?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
So
I do think.
I also go ahead, Tiara.
Oh, I do think that honestly, any system can be manipulated. There's nothing that's foolproof completely. However, I think we should set it up in a way, whatever we do, set it up in a way to make it as difficult as possible for people to cheat. I mean, that's what people in academics do. That's what teachers do. They try to set up their testing method in a way that makes it as difficult as possible for someone to get away with cheating.
Well, look at all the safeguards the banks have implemented for credit card fraud. I'm sure the similar technology could be employed to safeguard the vote.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And also, if you actually commit fraud, you serve time in prison. I
Right,
mean,
it is a
actually
crime.
follow through on that. There
Right.
are,
Yeah.
voter fraud versus election fraud. I feel like voter fraud is a bit of a distraction from the root of the real issue, which is what we have discussed, and I'm sure we will more on the tour or however United We Stand tour. It's election fraud. I mean, that is just, so it's just very, very clear, it seems. So, gosh, where to go next? The universal debt. Jubilee and liberty versus safety.
Right.
Have some thoughts on that, John, Tiara?
Well, I'll start off. So,
take your time.
We see all of the stimulus or the relief packages in the trillions and trillions of dollars. And I just keep asking myself, well, where are these trillions of dollars coming from? And the answer is it's future indebtedness. So we're indebting future generations to an unprecedented level, and we're creating a bondage situation for the future for the young people. And so the debt creates servitude. The more debt there is, the more servile the debtor is to the debt owner, whoever that may be. And that's another question: who is financing our debt? So, the only answer to perpetual debt and perpetual debt servitude is an ancient answer, which is actually a biblical answer, which is found in the book of Leviticus, which is the universal debt jubilee, which is every 50 years it was to be implemented in ancient Israel. So my belief is that no matter what system you're under, whether it's capitalism or communism or socialism or whatever it is, in about a generation's time, say 50 years, power and authority, money, wealth tend to centralize in the hands of an elite few. And so this ancient principle of the universal debt jubilee is really a reset of the economy to prevent a permanent underclass and a permanent overclass, elite overlords. So we have to really think about this soberly, because we are witnessing an absolute destruction of our economy, and there are no viable solutions out there to answer what's next, what's coming next. I don't hear anyone explaining how we're actually going to pay for this and how we're going to revive the economy, how many businesses are actually going to be able to reopen at this rate. So basically, we're facing a debt tsunami that's about to swamp the planet. And unless we take equally radical actions in response to the radical conditions that have put us into this place, the unprecedented, you could say, conditions that have placed us where we're at, the financial future looks pretty dismal. And I would maintain that the financial fallout is going to be far more devastating than the pandemic, direct pandemic fallout once all is said and done. We're already starting to see a spike in suicides and domestic violence and things of that nature. So anyhow, those are some of my thoughts.
And Tiara?
Yeah, I'd just like to agree. That's one of the main things that attracted me to the Life and Liberty Party was it was the only platform that mentioned such an idea. And even some other third parties that claim to be freedom-based talk about how important it is that we pay off our national debt and other obligations that our government has gotten our people into that are tanking our economy. And a lot of this was created through shady deals that the American people weren't even aware of and didn't vote for. So I don't think that's fair that we should have to pay it off. You know, when people were doing these shady deals behind the scenes to cause us to become enslaved in this way,
Right.
and the American people didn't know about it and didn't agree to it. So additionally, to me, this is like, I'm a project manager and I study organizational systems design. So as some other candidates from other third parties, including the Libertarian Party, have identified in detail, that basically this whole system is set up from the start as a scam. And it's just kind of like, it reminds me of people that go try to gamble in Las Vegas. And the system's already kind of set up. It's already kind of rigged so that you really don't win. It's hard. It's nearly impossible to win against the house because they've got the system set up so you really can't. So to me, I think if we've been entrapped unknowingly and also against our will, if we've been entrapped into a system that's already flawed and it's already against us and designed to take away the private property and wealth of the people, I think that first of all, there's no way to really pay it off because it's just perpetual. It's a perpetual scam that never ends. Second of all, I don't think that it's justifiable for us to have to pay it off, considering the terms that we were, how we were brought into this kind of enslavement, right? So I'm really in favor and advocating this solution of the debt jubilee because it's the only way I can see that's viable to actually stop this scam and reset the economy.
Where can people go to learn more about this idea of yours? What website can we find more information about your campaign?
Well, there's lifeandlibertyparty.com. So our platform's on there. Mm-hmm. And then there's John Richard Myers, MYERS.com, johnrichardmyers.com. That's my campaign website. And Tiara, you have a Facebook page now, or?
Yeah, I have a Facebook and a Twitter account. And so people can follow me on there. My Twitter name is at Tiara Lusk. And then my Facebook political page is Tiara Lusk 2020. So if people want to follow the information that I've been researching, they can just go find me on those two sites.
Great. We'll plug it again at the end, but just with what you spoke about, I think people might click and look on there in the middle of the stream in the future. As far as the money, it's all kind of fake anyway, right? Fractional reserve, it's all made out of thin air.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard from. We had Edward Griffin. He lives 20 minutes down the road from me. Well, at least this is a place where he does all his research. I'm here in Cambria, California, Central Coast, and he's nearby. And so, but just learning from him, I mean, talk about the grand illusion of the Federal Reserve being anything but federal, as you know, private and so on. So I don't know. It's interesting. I agree with you on the blockchain ledger. Just to kind of dive back a moment, that not anything is perfect. I remember this audience person standing at audience at Politicon. We had a panel there on blockchain voting. I think Chen Uger of the Young Turks, that's fine, and I co-moderated that time the Free and Equal Elections panel. And somebody asked, like, well, can we break it? You know, the blockchain ledger, like, is it vulnerable? And I remember a person on the panel, I think it was Adam Caleb Ernest, to follow my vote, or one of the guys. He was like, go ahead, break it so we can make it better. We can make it stronger. And I was like, well, that's cool to hear. And there are other ways to cross-reference blockchain ledger. Of course, John, great thinking with the paper ballot track as well as the ledger. And so that's great. But in 5-10 years, blockchain voting will inevitably become obsolete and something better will rise. But it does seem like the best option right now. So, but in any case, how are we going to fix this? What's going on in the world?
Well,
John, like, you're running. Tiara, you're running. You care about our country. Do we want more people to run? Like, is this
sure?
Do you want more people to support the Life and Liberty Party? How do they do that?
Right. Well, we have candidates currently. We have a U.S. Senate candidate and a U.S. House candidate in Idaho. They're running with the Constitution Party of Idaho, so they'll appear on that ballot in the fall. But they've also joined our Life and Liberty Party coalition. And we also have a candidate in Colorado for a local commission, city commission, I think, and then one in Arkansas for another commission, local commission. So people can even be members of other parties as long as we're not organized. Life and Liberty Party is not organized as an entity within their state. They can still join our coalition and yet remain a member of another party. They just have to sign the coalition agreement, which can be found on our website, or they can contact us and we can get a copy to them. So we're just open to anyone that's, civically minded, that wants to restore the republic through constitutional governance, the rule of law. Basically we want to create a life-affirming society. We want to be good stewards of our environment. We think, you have to create the preconditions and the environment to foster life and liberty. So, yeah.
And Tiara, what can we?
Yeah.
Why are you running? I mean, you're running vice presidential. I mean, what to go from the work that you've done and teaching and all, and now you're running as a vice presidential candidate. That's cool. I hope you can inspire. You will inspire many more to do that. I see that. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it might seem kind of crazy that the first time I run for something, this is the office I'm going for, instead of starting with like House of Representatives or something. But it's just because this is a platform.
The only thing crazy is sitting back and not doing something. Sorry, I know there's an overlap, but I have to through.
Yeah, well, the thing that made me have enough courage to put myself out there at all, because I do think this is something that's just problematic. A lot of people are afraid to run. A lot of good people, especially, don't want to be smeared, and that was kind of a fear I had too. So I just thought, if I'm going to run the first time, I want to do it as part of a team. Even though I have some campaign experience in my background, I've never actually run for anything. So I wanted to do it as part of a team that I would have support from people who do have experience running for office. And I also, it was just so important to me that the platform is something I really can get behind, because I would so much rather get behind a platform that I really solidly believe in and not win than to be with a platform or a party that I'm not so sure about and win, right? So that the message and the things that we're promoting is more important to me than winning. And so to answer your original question, how do we fix this? I think it all starts with awareness, which is what we're really trying to do by running for office this year. We're trying to put our names out there as a way to build the party so that people can become more aware of all these issues. I've found that even when I was with the Constitution Party and I was recruiting for that, I would introduce people to the Constitution Party and they would say, "What's that?" And when I would just give them a brief summary of what it was about, they'd be like, "I'm all in." They just never heard of it. They never knew that such a thing existed. And I think if there were more awareness, people would get behind the message that we have here with our platform. So I think even more so with the Life and Liberty Party, because it directly addresses some of the core root of the problems in our society better than any of the other parties I've seen so far. So that's what we're really trying to do with our run for office is we're trying to build the party and trying to make people aware of the message and the platform that we have. And I think once people wake up to the truth about issues that they were confused about, that we can educate people about with our party, I think that the whole third party movement generally will continue to succeed and grow. So I think that a lot of the smaller parties are the ones that are true advocates of freedom. Whereas like the two major party systems seems to be going the same direction as far as big government. They tend to promote big government as a solution to everything. And they just have a difference with regard to a lot of times moral issues, and that's it. But when it comes to actually promoting the vision our founding fathers had of a limited government, they don't do that. And I think a lot of people are stuck in this false illusion, right, of the two parties, which one's really promoting freedom. Well, they're both actually kind of promoting our perpetual enslavement without people really knowing that. So to me, I'm really committed to the third party movement, especially those that truly do advocate limited government. Yeah.
I'd just like to follow up by saying that just being involved is a win. You don't actually have to win an election to be a winner or to influence the public debate and public policy and elected officials. So just our existence is a win, just being out there promoting these ideas is certainly a positive thing. And the more voices out there promoting their vision of, the future based on these principles, the better. As one person told me years ago in Alaska, let there be 1,000 blooms in the Garden of Liberty,
Well, I am, 1,000 or tens of thousands and I'm excited to hopefully see you on the tour. We're kicking off September 18th through the 20th. It should be no surprise that, United We Stand sessions, we do this every week, twice a week. We have artists on Fridays, and I've started having a conversation with them before they perform. And I anticipate this will grow to more than twice a week, to 3 or 4 or 5 days a week. These live streams are really building the energy to gravitate towards the United We Stand tour this fall. Love will win. We have artists Andy Babb and Laura L this Friday. That's one of their songs, that love will win. And I do feel love is greater than fear. And I'm just not buying the fear of what's going on in our world and looking at the numbers. And thank goodness the death rates have plateaued. Exactly what I thought would be the case. But you never know until it happens. It's happened, thank goodness. And, I just opened a shop here in Cambria, California. I'm in it right now. It's the headquarters of Free and Equal Elections. It's called Bali Gyms. I had a sheriff walk in here on Sunday, and he was disgruntled. He's like, I don't even want to be here. I am being forced. We are being forced by the federal government to come in and inspect all these shops to see if you guys are following coronavirus. And I'm like, he just didn't want to be here. And I was like, I just interviewed and told him about Free and Equal Elections. We chatted half an hour, and and I invited him to come to the first stop, the United We Stand tour here in Cambria. He seemed interested, but it's I told him about Sheriff Mack, who we had on here a couple weeks ago, who filed a lawsuit and won the Supreme Court, helping to protect the rights of the sheriffs against the federal government, Hillary Clinton, and so on, back in, I think, early 90s. So I sent that off to my local sheriff here, and he's connected me to the main sheriff of San Luis Obispo. Because I mean, there's some good guys there that are just like, we want to protect people. We don't want to be going into these shops, and the only reason we're doing it is so we can keep you guys open. I'm like, well, good vibes. I mean, it was nice. So yeah, Jessica will send you more information about what we're doing this fall. We're kicking off September 18th from Camden, California, and 4 weeks in a row, we're going through Taos, New Mexico, Berthoud, Colorado, private land, and then off to Fort Wayne, Indiana for our final stop, which will present our presidential debate and launch our blockchain elections as an app. We're almost done. We got 10 minutes here. Can we wrap up with some final thoughts from both of you? And please, again, plug the websites people can learn more about you and the Life and Liberty Party.
Well, I was just going to read our preamble to our platform because I think it just sums it up. It just says the Life and Liberty Party's core principles are founded upon a strict adherence to the original intent of America's founding documents, the U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. Our party is a constitutionally centered party upholding the rule of law and due process under the law. No one is above the law. We advocate for the return to equal justice for all, true freedom for the American people, accountability and transparency from our public servants, and an informed and civically involved citizenry. Whereas, recognizing the lack of a viable political home and witnessing the growing number of the disenfranchised, the need to build a real option became paramount. We therefore realized the need to establish a serious vehicle that would fill the void for activists who currently identify as pro-life libertarians, isolated liberty-loving independents, and faith-based constitutionists who share no intention of establishing an unconstitutional theocracy. We have taken the following positions on key issues of our time, and then we just go into, the right to life because we're a life-affirming party, and we believe in, good stewardship of the environment. Because life is such a vast idea. It's like, what I say? Life matters. How's that? Life matters, okay? For us, life matters. We believe in all the civil rights that are articulated in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, as I said. Basically, no foreign entangling alliances. We believe in the right of self-defense, the Second Amendment. Healthcare freedom. We're against forced medical procedures. We believe in free, informed consent and freedom of choice in medical procedures. Again, back to the elections process, we know that there's some institutional flaws within the system that need to be corrected, and that depends directly upon the involvement of the citizens, doesn't it? So we advocate for education by the citizenry and involvement in your local government. Again, start with the precinct level. It's a great place to start and to learn. We believe in border security, national sovereignty, but we don't think we should be the policemen of the world again. We believe in private property rights. We believe in the equal footing doctrine that all states should have entered on an equal footing, and the federal government has no business controlling vast swaths of land. We would return those lands to the states and to the people. That might be an answer to some of our homeless issues. If we could do a new homestead program for some of the people, millions could find a new beginning. Anyhow, we're against the war on drugs as it has usurped the Constitution and civil liberties of millions. We're against the prison industrial complex that it has generated. We're against an Article 5 convention because we don't think it could be controlled, and it would probably dismantle the very foundations that we uphold. So that's the summary of our platform. Not too long. I would encourage you to go to our website, lifeandlibertyparty.com, check it out for yourselves. We are raising money to get on the ballot because, as you know, as we've spoken, ballot access is such an onerous burden. So we're raising money to get on the ballot, and we're also seeking electors in the different states where we will be on the ballot, such as Arkansas, probably Tennessee, Vermont, Colorado, hopefully. So we need people to be involved. We need people to donate money, time, talent, whatever. We're fighting for the people. We're fighting for our future, and we can't do it alone. That's for sure. It takes a united effort. Thank you. And again, my website's John Richard Myers, MYERS, johnrichardmyers.com. Thanks, Christina.
Thank you, John. Love the platform. Tiara, did you have any follow-up as well as we wrap up? See, an hour flies by.
Yeah, my first question is, are your viewers able to see the private chat if I post a couple of links?
There's actually live comments. There's private chat and then live comments. So yeah, they could see it there. And I see Daniel Alden says, I agree, JR, but it would be nice to win, right? From your comment earlier.
Of course.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Oh,
so you can put it in there.
I can see the live comments, but it's not allowing me to post anything on there. But I'll figure it out. I just wanted to show some of the best. Yeah, I just wanted to post some of the very best explanations I've ever seen of the Federal Reserve System and the fractional reserve banking system. So I guess I can just post that on my Facebook page too, or Twitter. So you can come to my Twitter page. It's at Tiara Lusk. My Facebook page is Tiara Lusk 2020, and I'll post those links there. The other thing I just want to end with is just saying, our goal here is to give people hope, give the American people hope. Because a lot of people right now, they feel like everything's falling apart and there's no solution to it.
Right.
To me, the only way to really solve a problem is if you're really educated about what the core root of the problem is. Right now, people are so confused with all the disinformation that's out there about why we have the problems we have. And I really believe that Life and Liberty Party does its best to educate people about the truth and the facts. And that's really the only way that you can begin to work on resolving a situation, is if you understand what the true reality of what the cause of those problems are in the first place. So that's what we're aiming to do, aiming to educate people and help them get involved in meaningful ways to resolve these issues.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Run for office. Look at these two. They're doing it. It's a duty. It's a duty. Okay, there's politics in everything we do. There's no getting around it. There's art in everything we do. People tell me, oh, Christina, you're so political. I'm like, are you kidding? I don't like politics. This is just a calling, a duty. In a way, the cards fell in my hand when my dad ran for governor in '98 in Illinois as a third-party candidate, libertarian. And I saw him wrongfully knocked off the ballot. And I saw the injustices at 17 years of age and the flawed electoral system. I'm like, this is not okay. And to sit back and let things continue to be not okay is not okay. So I thank you so much, the two of you, being leaders. And, true leader, creates more leaders, not followers. And that's what we're here to do today. And so thank you for donating such a huge chunk of your life and your heart. And, I know it sometimes can take a little bit of time away from our family and loved ones or this or that, but we're giving so much back. We're increasing the chances of that hope, and change. Don't listen to Obama. Those are beautiful words. Those are words that the systems try to taint. But you know what? There's so much hope and so much change coming. And we see very clearly through that grand illusion. But one thing that is not an illusion for sure is that love will win. So it just has to, it will. The latter's not an option. So thank you so much. I'll see you on the tour. Reach out to Jessica and we'll make that happen. And we're here to inspire more people to run for office. And thank you for doing and, serving your duty to help make our world a better place. And it's going to be.
Thanks again.
All
Our
right.
pleasure. Yeah.
All right. Much love.